Well, I'm grateful. Here we are connecting again on the pilgrimage.
Yes, I
So
are
awesome.
you on a pilgrimage right now?
No, I mean our little pilgrimage here of along the journey.
Oh, okay. So how are you? What have you been doing? Just music.
yeah, so yep, I lived in so I was in Texas there for a couple years, then I was in New Mexico for a few years. Then I moved back to New York for 4 years, and then I went to seminary, and then I got ordained uh 2 years ago, and now I live north of New York City. And this is my first assignment as a priest, but mostly a lot of youth ministry and Spanish ministry. And then music kind of happens on the side. A lot of it was getting worked on in seminary. So mostly youth ministry and Spanish ministry right now. And I'm in a small town uh, about an hour and a half north of New York City. And it's great. I really love it. It's a great place to learn the priesthood, and just yeah, it's a beautiful small little city. Yeah, it's just been good. And then thanks be to God, the music thing's been able to be something I can do in between, occasional, like a couple concerts here and there for events. But in seminary, I had some time to be able to work on it. So yeah, just in between is whenever the Lord opens the door. So it's
Well,
been
I was
good.
super excited to find out that you got ordained. That's congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. It's been yeah, it was a real yeah, it's been a ongoing gift and a mystery. So still unpacking it all, you know.
Well, let's talk about your album now.
Sure.
Congratulations. This is coming out in on July 12th, I understand, if I'm right. And it's called Mysteries and Medicines, correct? Is that the right
Yes.
information? Okay, good. So you've been doing music for a while, like a really long time. Can you tell the audience just a little bit about your background and when you started and why this is such a milestone for your music career?
Mhm. Um yeah, each time I've recorded, I would say it's a total gift. So each one feels like a step and a blessing and a milestone in the sense of it's just another, yeah, just real gift from the Lord. But I suppose this one for me was kind of preparing for the priesthood. The journey of this album was a lot of ways the preparation for the priesthood. So the songs were just taking up some of the mysteries I was praying with, and kind of sitting in and wondering at. And yeah, I would say um, it was particularly new ground for me and a unique blessing to work with a lot of people. It was a collaboration, unlike anything I'd really ever done before, with a lot of people. There's just so many people involved, so many hands. Actually, when I started the project, I didn't have, it was just myself and the music. And then I reached out, uh, Father Mark Mary, a brother of ours, and JJ Wright, a good friend of ours, reached out to him to ask if he'd be willing to help with this. And then it just became one kind of collaboration after another of many hands, making a big project, a beautiful project. A lot of hands doing little work along the way to make this thing happen. So I guess that was one of the biggest um, wonders for me, was just how many people were involved, and yeah, what a gift we could kind of share it together. So yeah.
It's wonderful. And it sounds really great. I noticed that it has a different feel than the other albums. Why did you decide to go in I guess, a different direction? It sounds like there's all kinds of different styles in this album. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that was really a fruit. Well, firstly, I guess one of the goal is always to give something to people that would be something they could pray with. For myself, that's why I played the music. But a secondary goal was hopefully to give something people could dance to. That was just kind of on my heart, that I wanted to give people another opportunity to dance. And so some of the music, that was kind of what we were thinking about when we were kind of brainstorming. And then a lot of the sound came as people sort of brought their own gifts into the project, and the development of the sound in that regard was really kind of how things developed. As somebody would add something here, it was really their ear. And whenever I noticed whenever you play with any musician, you they bring their life into it, they bring their sound into it, they bring their gifts into it, and an ear on something. And so really what ends up getting produced is sort of the fruit of many voices, the fruit of many ears, and fruit of many hearts. And I noticed that with this project too, the sound developed um, as more people got involved. And so I would say that's really what you're hearing there is everyone who was involved. So
I
yeah.
haven't finished listening to the whole thing, but what I heard is just awesome. Like, I love the little litany that you have. I can't remember what exactly it was called.
You got
Um,
it. It's Little Litany.
the litany. I love that. It's so prayerful and peaceful at the same time. And then, I mean, can you just tell me the inspiration behind, did you write all the songs or did you collaborate on writing these?
I did write all the songs. Yeah, in terms of making the music, that's where the collaboration comes in. But the songs themselves are just prayers and things I've been chewing on. But I'm certainly influenced by a lot of people and a lot of conversations and a lot of encounters that I have along the way. Um, and Little Litany was probably the fruit of a lot of people's good advice to me in terms of, you know, how do we pray through the things that we find ourselves stuck in, and then how do we ask God to break through and bring about the new thing He's doing. So whether and litanies are a beautiful way to do that. You know, there's these short little prayers to God, asking Him in that song particularly to help us to let go of those things that where we're jammed, those root lies maybe in our lives, and then to welcome the truth. I guess that's what that litany is doing. Is it's also an invitation to welcome um, the opposite of what the lie has been trying to speak over our lives. You know, whether it's the lack of trust in the Father's goodness, or we welcome the faith in the Father's providence. You know, something positive, the gift of His Spirit to kind of fill the space where those lies have kind of made a home. So yeah, Little Litany is probably just the fruit of uh, just learning from a lot of other people how to pray and how to ask God for His grace to little by little change our hearts.
What is
Yeah.
your favorite song on the album and why?
Hmm. Usually it depends on the day. You know, each song is for a different moment of the journey, a different moment of the pilgrimage of life. But Mysteries and Medicines, I would say, is sort of the heart of the album. That's why I titled the album after that song. And it kind of gets, for me, it's a little bit of the heartbeat of the theme, which was for myself this idea that God comes to us in mysteries. The question I was kind of proposing or wrestling with or trying to walk through is, what do we do when God comes to us in mystery? The things we don't understand. Sometimes God comes to us very clearly, but I would say most of the time in life He comes to us in mysteries. And what do we do with that? And I think one of the fruits of wrestling with that mystery is that we find that God also comes in those mysteries bearing medicines. He never allows anything that He's not going to use for our sanctification, for our conversion, for our freedom, and that's a mystery because He uses some wild things, you know, and He uses, He uses human freedom and the circumstances of life, but He uses it all ultimately to bring us to Him, which is His remedy for all of our big questions and our big issues, our big problems, our deepest desires. And so this idea that His mysteries are tied up always with His medicines and His remedies for our life. And if our eyes are open and we're begging the grace, we can find Him in even in the storm cloud of life's mysteries, working. And perhaps I would dare say He's healing even in the midst of things that are unpleasant, difficult, hard to understand. He's always working. So I guess that album, that song is kind of getting at that mystery. Sorry, I don't have another word for it.
That's perfect. What has the response been to have other people heard these new songs yet, or are they totally secret until they get released?
Yeah, we released several of the songs in singles over the last few months, leading up to the release of the album, and I've been grateful. It seems that it's been helpful for people, which is always blessing and a bonus. And I've enjoyed particularly speaking to a lot of young people who I think are often more inclined to dance than anybody else, and I've been grateful to hear that it's helped them dance. So to me, that's I feel very satisfied.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
exactly what you said you wanted.
yeah, I know. Dreams fulfilled.
Well, what do you hope people take from this spiritually and I guess joy would be one thing because the
Hmm.
joy of being able to dance to this kind of music. But what else do you hope people take from it once you release the whole thing?
Yeah, I guess I would love it if the album could help people just think twice before they write off that big difficulty of their life as absolutely not God's will for them. And we all do this, right? When the difficult circumstances come, when a situation that looks so far from God comes into our life, disaster, disappointments, crushed dreams, crushed plans, when that comes, I think all of our first reaction is always, God cannot be in this. God cannot be in this. And I guess what I guess the Lord was inviting me to find in the midst of the album is that maybe he could be, maybe he could be. And obviously he doesn't come in through evil or anything like that, but he does use everything. And so I guess I would love it just to encourage those who find themselves in surrounded by his mystery, just to keep looking, to keep asking, to keep seeking, to keep knocking, and to not give up. Trying to find him in the midst of the circumstances, because he comes in the strangest disguises sometimes of life's situations. You know, the things that seem so far from what we would expect him to be coming to us in. Sometimes he's just right there, and I'd say he's always somewhere right there in the storm cloud. And so maybe just that anyone out there who is finding it hard to accept what's happening, to maybe just wait a little bit longer and just to continue to pray a little bit longer and to listen a little bit longer, and to allow him to reveal himself in his mysterious ways in his mysterious time.
Wow, thank you very much. That's so beautiful. I also wanted to ask, there is a theme, a Eucharistic theme on the album, especially since we're in the midst of the Eucharistic revival. Did that have anything to do with some of that? Or did you just want to put it on there because you want people to be drawn to the Holy Eucharist?
Yeah, well, I would say that sacramentality is at the heart of this theme of mysteries and medicines, and the Eucharist is sort of the icon of all of that because the Eucharist, the sacraments show us how God comes to us. He uses tangible things, and actually tangible things that aren't necessarily always the nicest things. Pour bread, pour wine, oil and water. He comes to us in concrete and often even poor appearances, right? He comes to us in the distressing disguise of the poor, as Mother Teresa says, and in the sacraments, he comes in the distressing disguise of normal things. It's surprising. It's scandalous if we really think about it. He doesn't come in the limousine. He comes on the donkey, and um, the sacraments are meant to kind of educate us in this, so that we can start to see him in everything else that appears in a distressing disguise, right? Life circumstances and things like that. So the Eucharist, really, I think Eucharistic adoration, a Eucharistic love, a Eucharistic center in our lives forms in us eyes to see him in what looks like not him. You know, the more we look there and we see the heart of God in the Eucharist, we see that the appearance of bread and wine is really just a veil for the very heart of God. I think then more and more we can begin to see him in those situations in our life that have the disgusting appearance of things that we would say, this doesn't look like God. It doesn't look, how could God be coming to me in this, you know? So it's a training of the eyes. The Eucharist brings about a training of the eyes and training of the heart to begin to perceive him beyond the appearances. And he wants to do that more and more so that we can find him in the ordinary and even in the difficult and in the obscure sometimes. So I would say the Eucharist is really the heart of the reality of these things. It's where we find this truth more than anywhere else, because that is the greatest mystery where we find the remedy, the medicine for immortality. It's in the Eucharist. So I think the more we fix our eyes there and allow him to open us to the reality behind the veil, the more too in our lives he'll open us to the reality behind the veil of the circumstances around us.
I've never thought of it that way. That is so profound. Thank you.
Oh, welcome.
Did Is there anything else that you would like to add about this album or how people can support the Friars, and where does the money from your album go? What does it do?
Mhm. Yeah, all of our work in our community and our evangelization all goes to support the apostolates of our community. So that is our work with the materially poor and destitute, and evangelization. So everything from our youth programs to our homeless shelters to the different um, works of evangelization we do, it's all for that and all supporting that. But more than anything else, it comes from just our joy of just sharing the good news that God is the source of all joy, and it's good to know Him and it's good to follow Him. So that's the main reason we put it out there. But we're always grateful for the support too. So all of the proceeds for the album would be going to support those things.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked yet?
I'm just grateful for the opportunity, and I hope that the album can be a blessing to people. I often think that we all need a little soundtrack for our journey of life, to help us keep walking forward. And I hope the album can do that and be a little encouragement along the way for those who are traveling. Yeah,
Well, thank you so much, Brother Isaiah. I'm
yeah,
so grateful that we got to talk today.
yeah. Thank you, Jacqueline. God bless you.
God
Appreciate
bless
it.
you.